on.
Okay. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of True Story Live, the first one of the new year, 2022, as far as we know. Tonight's topic is online connections, never going to give you up. And we attempted it, I think it was at least twice last Sunday, and we were having technical issues, and so we put it off. Or no, it wasn't last weekend; it was the week before
One
that.
before, yeah.
And then we took off for Christmas, and here we are. So I hope everyone had a good Christmas holiday season. If you celebrate that, we're finding out that so many people are deciding not to celebrate the holidays anymore, or at least Christmas, for various reasons. Won't get into that tonight, but so I guess I feel like I have to be a little careful, because not everybody celebrates, but we did. Jen and I did, and we didn't do anything huge. We just kind of stayed at home and didn't do any like huge Christmas parties or anything like that, but we just enjoyed ourselves, just the two of us. We did go over to my sister's house and watch the kids open Christmas gifts, which my wife so lovingly went shopping for and lovingly wrapped. I didn't have to wrap a single present. In fact, and maybe I should be ashamed of this, but I did buy my wife a few presents, and I put them in a box, and she wrapped them.
I'm very picky.
Well, she says she enjoys wrapping gifts. So who am I to argue with that?
I had a really hard time not retying the bow you put on my drafting table ruler. I was like,
I was trying. Well, at least I can wrap a bow around this one thing. We didn't have a box big enough to put. It was a drafting. What do you call it? A drafting level?
It's what is it? Like a T-bar. Ruler.
Yeah. It's what, maybe 3 feet long or something like
Yeah.
that. But anyway, there wasn't a box for it, so I thought, well, at least I can put a bow around it, and that's what I did. I cut a bow off, and
I was thinking, it's wired ribbon, Jason. You can shape it, and there is no shape.
Shape? What are you talking about? Shape? I don't know what that is.
I will teach you.
Right. Well, at least I have a teachable spirit, so I can learn new things.
That's true.
Right? All right.
That's true.
So we'll give people a little time to get into the chat. But first, we'll introduce the panel. For those of you listening for the first time, thanks for stopping by. We hope you enjoyed tonight's program. And we'll say hello to Jen first this time. Jen, say hello to the people.
Hello, people. Hello. Happy New Year to you guys. I hope all is well in this new year, the second day of the new year.
Second day of
dun,
the new
dun, dun. No pressure.
It's 2022, 2022.
Oh, wow.
2022. There we go.
There you go.
Some of the years that fall on specific numbers have some kind of meaning. I didn't look up to see if 222 has any meaning, but there you go. Now we'll hear from our friend from Australia and producer of the show, also the writer of this write-up, Glenn. Say hello to the peoples if you don't mind.
Yeah, Happy New Year on the 3rd of January, 2022.
Yes, I was going to point that out.
Yeah, and I was thinking about your Christmas present. Why don't you give Jen the $10 and tell her to let her head go and buy her own presents?
$10.
What? More than $10, but I get your attempt at a jab at my cheapness. Well taken.
I did make a list just to give him some ideas.
Yeah, I asked for the list. I in the past, I have always felt pretty inept with the buying of presents for others. I have a horror story I'll share briefly later in life when this started to bother me and I wanted to do a better job. But I had decided late in the Christmas season, and I went out on Christmas Eve. Now, I hear that a lot of men do this. They wait to the last minute and they think that they're going to go out and get all the presents they want to get in one night. And it is the worst decision when it comes to shopping that you could possibly make, because everything's all picked over and you have other men generally that are out there trying to do the same thing.
Yep.
And
And Jen, you're I'm still last minute person. Dude, go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, that's okay. So this one particular night, it was several years back, but I went to Walmart thinking, well, Walmart surely is going to have, because of their selection, they're going to have everything I need to find. And it was a nightmare. It seemed like there were thugs. I don't know what they were doing there, but they were
Uh-oh.
causing mayhem and harassing shoppers and things like that. And
Krampus. Bunch
I'm
of
just,
Krampuses.
yeah, I'm just trying to find a few gifts at the last minute. And, I almost had a nervous breakdown, and I felt this excited anxiety in my chest, and not about the harassers, just the fact that I had waited so long and I wasn't able to find everything I wanted. And I swore I would never do that again. And I never have. I did go out on Christmas Eve day, however, and it was a much more pleasant experience this time around. I mean, I had prepared myself that it was going to be busy. Things were going to be picked over, and I was ready for that. And that's not at all what happened. I mean, there were some things I wasn't able to find, but the first place I stopped, I pulled right up there, and there was a parking spot right in front of the store. Couldn't believe it.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was not as bad as I had prepared myself for. And anyway, so there's that. And so the Christmas season, I think, ends, as far as the 12 days of Christmas, it ends on the 6th of January. I always wondered about that, when the 12 days of Christmas actually started. And I had thought it would start sometime in December and then would culminate on the 26th, but that's not correct. It actually ends on January 6th, technically, if you're counting the 12 days of Christmas. So, in a way, it's still called Christmas until January 6th. That's kind of weird to me, but it is what it is. So, New Year's Eve obviously falls in there, and that was yesterday, New Year's Day. And, we didn't do anything really huge for New Year's Day, but neither of us had to work, so we just kind of enjoyed ourselves. And that brings us to this moment where we're going to try a third time to do this particular topic: online connections, never going to give you up. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, we'll ask Jen to say hello to whomever is in the chat.
Yes. Okay. We have Celine. Hello. Who just deleted her social media, which, honestly, if anything, I feel like that's very healthy.
Sure.
There's been many
Sure.
times I'm like, maybe. So hey, Celine, I'm glad your name is back up. I liked the Grogu or Grogu, if I'm saying it correctly, but I love your name. It's such a pretty name. We have Debbie here. We have Jamie Grace, Rachel, and that is it so far. Hey, oh, Debbie, I almost forgot Debbie. And Helene. Hey, Helene. Glad you popped
Helene.
in. Happy
Yeah.
New Year's, guys.
Happy New Year.
Glad you're here and glad to be on this topic. I feel like the world's going more toward this direction with online connections,
Yeah.
with everything, dating
Yeah.
and friendships and, contacting and staying in touch with family. And
Yeah.
so this will be good.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
I get that song stuck in my head again. It was
Never
literally
gonna
stuck
give
in my
you
head
up.
for days after. I was like, son of
Yeah.
a.
Yeah. Well, it was
It's
a
catchy.
popular song, and
Yeah.
it became infamous because of the Rick rolling, which, the other two times that we did this, we we mentioned the same thing. So for those of you that don't know what Rick rolling is, it simply is when it's generally on YouTube. I think people did it with emails and things like that too. So it's not just YouTube, but YouTube probably would be the place where it was the most popular, where it would have some kind of subject line at the top, and it would entice people. It was clickbait basically. It just is something that entices people to click on it, and then you think you're getting one thing, but instead you get Rick Astley singing this song, which is also the title of our show, Never Gonna Give You Up. and it became a thing. It became a thing, and it became so big during that period of time that later, I think in the 2000s, sometime here recently, Rick Astley had pretty good. Seemed like he had a pretty good sense of humor about it, and he did like a live version of the song all these years later, and
Hmm.
that was pretty popular. You can find that if anyone's interested in seeing that. You can look it up on YouTube and just take a look. But anyway, that's kind of the theme behind the subject tonight.
And tonight I'll be playing out the show with the song on ukulele.
Oh, good,
I'm
good.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You're becoming more and more talented with the ukulele.
Oh, that would have been funny though.
Yeah, it would have been funny. Okay, I think we've got the introductions over, and we will try to say hello to anyone that pops into the chat when we have time a little bit later. But we're happy that everyone who is here has taken the time, especially those that were here a week before last when we tried to do it. And we did attempt to, to go on with the show a couple times, and it just wasn't in the card, so to speak, with the tech issues and stuff. But we're going to make another stab at it tonight, and it's not a super long write up, so hopefully we'll be able to do it in a short period of time and not drag it on too long. And we're going to start that now. So before we actually start, I just want to make a point about Celine dropping off social media. Jen kind of weighed in briefly on that. And this kind of fits into the topic tonight, the idea of online connections and how good or bad that might be. And of course, you can draw your own conclusion. Our job, if it's a job, is just to present things or present opinions. And sometimes the three of us don't agree on everything, but we've known each other long enough to be able to present different opinions and still be able to get along. And we hope that's the case too. You may disagree with the points all three of us make. But that's part of the fun of discussing topics is you get to decide, what you're going to do for your life. So it's kind of the what do you call that when you preface something? Not disclosure. What do you call that?
I think I know the word, but I can't think of it either.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Thank you, Glenn.
Good.
Thank you. You can always count on Glenn to come in with the missed word. Disclaimer. So that's a disclaimer. So without further ado, online connections never going to give you up. So it starts with a quote: "Don't settle for online connections that are easily thrown away. Appreciate the people who show up consistently in life around you and treat them like gold. Cherish them." And that one's from Unknown. So with the festive season, no happy holidays here, thank you. Close by, tonight's music is a blast from the past. Lots of happy faces and people enjoying themselves. Yep, it's Rick Astley and his signature song sung with choir, choir, choir. The link is in the description. It is a very festive song. Give it a listen when you get a chance. As internet users, we know that online connections have a myriad of approach angles for a TSL show, some serious, some light. What might online be like in 5, 10, or 20 years? Will there be more virtual than real, or will our reality be virtual? So, to keep it simple, I've taken the lyrics from Never Gonna Give You Up to see if we can have some meaningful discussion derived from a pop song. LOL. Topic is open to bring up any kind of relationship, committed, non-committed, casual, friends, shared interest, and anything considered relevant. It goes where it does. Okay, here we go. First part of the song: "We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I." Questions that come from that first part: does a code of behavior and rules tend to operate differently in an online environment compared with face-to-face interactions? What are the advantages and disadvantages of online connections in terms of getting to know a person? What is the quote unquote Christian attitude to online relationships with a third party of the same sex as a partner? Is there a difference in the way boundaries, if any, might be initiated online compared with non-online? Next line: "A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. And the questions: do you believe it possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention of ever meeting the other party? Who says you won't get this from any other guy? Think so? Duh. LOL. Ego. And the next line: I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. Got to make you understand. Okay, it's easier to share feelings and thoughts via an online connection. That's a question. Is it easier? Let me say it again. Is it easier to share feelings and thoughts via an online connection? Is it possible to make you understand what another person may be feeling, regardless of the medium of connection? And then the bridge: never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to run around and desert you, never going to make you cry, never going to say goodbye, never going to tell a lie and hurt you. Do you believe that it's easier to be misunderstood when communicating online compared with in person? Do you know of any instance where an existing relationship has been affected by an online connection with another, and the words let down, run around, desert you, make you cry, tell a lie and hurt you, and say goodbye are applicable? Try it again. And then the last lines: we've known each other for so long, your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside, we both know what's been going on. We know the game and we're gonna play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. And then the questions: it's easier to play game. Is it easier to play games and be deceptive online compared with in person, etc.? Do online connections help naturally reserved and shy people to gain confidence? Maybe don't overkill online connections by letting them be our lives instead of having a life. That's just me. No Instagram, no Twitter, just some crazy people I know online. Now, a bonus, LOL, 2 songs in one show. It's Colin Hay, Men at Work with Overkill, sung with Choir, Choir, Choir. And that link is in the description at the end, guys. And ghosts appear and fade away to all. Enjoy the break and stay safe. Now, of course, we tried to do this before. So only a couple places in here is referring to the holidays being yet before us. But technically, again, if you go by the 12 days of Christmas, it still applies, knowing that it's supposed to end on January 6th. So if anyone still has a break, I think that's probably pretty rare in most cases that you would still be on a break from your work. But if you are, either way, enjoy it and be safe. Stay safe. Great advice from our friend Glenn from Australia. Okay. I'm going to check the chat and see if anyone new came in that we didn't say hello to, and I do not see anyone, so we will just move forward.
I did laugh a lot through the write up and I didn't realize I was on mute.
Oh, well, thank you, because
Darn it.
it would have been more supportive probably if
Crickets, what's going on?
crickets. Yeah, nobody's laughing at
Sorry about that.
anything. Oh, that's
I have a
fine.
very squeaky bed, as you know, and I, I, it sounds like a fart when I like lay back down. I was like, yeah, I'll mute it. I forgot to unmute it. Ah.
Oh, that's quite all right. Okay, so the first question we're going to ask, I'll read the part leading up to it. As internet users, we know that online connections have a myriad of approach angles for a TSL show, some serious, some light. So now the question: what might online be like in 5, 10, or 20 years? And then, will there be more virtual than real, or will our reality be virtual? Jen, what do you think? What might online be like in 5, 10, 20 years?
Hmm. Well, I know Celine in the chat brought up the metaverse, and I mentioned this the last week
Right,
that we were
right.
on with this, and
Yeah,
I think it is going to go more virtual, unfortunately. Um, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I feel like people's social skills are like kind of atrophying when it comes
sure,
to being in person.
sure.
Um, I do think there is a sense of safety when you're communicating online. I think there's pros and cons, you
Yeah,
know, but yeah, I think it's
yeah.
going to go more reality.
So
or virtual reality.
so you said unfortunately. So can you fill that in a little bit before we move to Glenn?
Yeah,
Why do you say
yeah.
unfortunate about what it's going to be like in 5, 10, 20 years? That's
I th-
interesting.
I think, gosh, how do I explain this? I think it's going to be more like it is now, but worse when it comes to people. It's weird because, like, on one hand, you've got people being able to connect all over the world, like us
Right.
connecting with
Yes.
Glenn,
Right.
and people that live in other states and other
Right.
countries.
Right.
And so you can't necessarily, unless you bought a plane ticket or something, see these people in person and
Right.
hang out. It's almost like it used to be preferred that people got together in person,
Right.
and I feel like it's flipped.
Yeah.
Like, people would prefer to do it from the safety of their home and behind a screen,
Right.
not hearing each other's voices, not seeing each other. Like, I
Mm.
know there's Zoom and,
Right.
video chat and stuff, but
Yeah.
I just think it's going to I feel like there is something missing from that. There's some connection that you make with people when you're in person, especially touch. I mean, with friends, you hug, if somebody, if
Right.
you would consoling them. I mean, I've had friends that have gone through really hard stuff and we'll be talking over Facebook Messenger, and it physically hurts me that I can't go to them and hold them and hug them while they're
Right.
crying.
Yeah.
And it feels so lacking, and it's lacking and lackluster to try to comfort someone through typing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know it's something, it's better than nothing,
It is
but
better. Yeah.
it's just, to be able to have that touch and be able to see each other's faces and be in person. There's an intimacy to that you can't get through online.
Mm. Yeah.
um
I would
so
agree.
that's, yeah, did that fill it out enough?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Okay,
One
cool.
of the things you said, you were talking about getting to know people all around the world, and that was one of the attractions initially when the internet was opened up.
Yeah,
That very thing, you can talk to people that you've never met, that are far away, that you'll probably never have an opportunity to go and visit, like you said.
yeah.
And that is an advantage, but it seems like as part of the write-up and just us asking the question, is that a good thing or a bad thing to have these online connections be more virtual than real? But I'll get to my answer when it comes to me. I'm going to ask Glenn first. Glenn, what might online be like in 5, 10, 20 years? And then the follow-up part, will there be more virtual than real, or will our reality be virtual? What do you think?
I think it's an incredibly complex situation.
Yeah.
I can see in 10 years that we'll, well, what was that?
That's my computer chair that I
Oh,
probably need
okay.
to replace. I just adjusted my position and it makes a cracking sound, and I didn't mean to do that. My apologies.
I see that we as the humans collectively are
Mhm.
going to be able to, we'll be having relations with AI.
Yeah.
And I don't, and as that develops, I don't think we're going to really notice a difference, because
Mhm.
eventually I think we're going to be able to not dial up, but you know what I mean. We're going to be able to put in our parameters, and then we can have a relationship with AI. And is it going to be any? The question is it going to be any different from a from what you have now, speaking to an individual on here
Wow.
doing TSL, or is it just going to feel the same? I don't
Wow.
know. I think it may well feel the same.
Hmm. Well, that's another angle. The whole AI thing. Now we have the precursor to AI. Of course, there are some people out there that believe it already is up and running. It just hasn't been revealed yet. I'm not saying that from my perspective. I'm just saying that I've heard people say that it's already in operation. In fact, there have been movies about this, about having a relationship with an AI person that seems just as real as any other person. Um, okay, just a
I
moment.
just did it. Never
Okay,
mind.
thank you. All right. We've gone so far with this broadcast without having um, any trolls or people that come in just to cause issues. And then the past couple times we've had that problem. But I guess I feel grateful that we haven't had to deal with that very much. So that's been taken care of, guys. So thank you for your patience with that. All right. Where was I at? Okay. So they have depicted this idea. There was a movie called Her, which was an online type relationship with someone that was a computer program. And it was
Yeah.
very realistic. And the guy fell in love with this thing. And it was actually a pretty well done movie, in my opinion. It just put you into the position of thinking about, well, what if this is the way it's going to be? People could essentially fall in love, as Glenn, no, Glenn didn't suggest falling in love. He's just saying, would it be any different with an AI as opposed to what would it seem like it being a real person? And in this particular movie, it was saying, hey, this is going to seem like that. So now we have on our phones, if you have an Apple, is it Siri that you have on an Apple?
Yes.
So you can tell the difference. It doesn't sound to me like a human. I mean, it comes close, but you can tell you're asking a computer program a question. But I'm not saying that it couldn't get a lot better where it seems now. I have gotten phone calls where the message that someone put out there sounds like it's a real person, and you'll answer the question, and there will be a slight pause, and then there is a response tailored to any possible question you could think to answer. Sometimes if I'm in the mood, I'll have fun with it. I'll just say something super outlandish that would never expect, and it's just for my own entertainment. But anyway, the message seems like it's a human. So, in answer to this part, yeah, I think the more they do with the software and the technology, I think they could tailor an AI experience that sounds real. It's certainly been done in movies for some time. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I remember. Was it Hal? Was the name of the computer?
I think so.
It sounded a
Yes. Yeah.
little. It sounded more like a real person. It was the his vocal patterns were a little
Off.
not as human, a little off. Just his tone and personality were a little off. But yeah, they've had a lot of time to work on this, so I think eventually Glenn can have a point. Maybe some people would not know the difference, especially with catfishing, where people pretend to be someone else.
Yes. I was gonna bring up that show.
Yeah.
Oof.
With that going on, an AI could have a lot of fun with people. You could, with all the technology available to its disposal, you could create an online profile for someone that doesn't exist and complete with pictures, some random pictures of some person, and present themselves as being that. We don't know.
Yep, that happens already.
It happened. John Dons brings up war games. Now that voice definitely sounded like a computer. It didn't sound like a person at all. But that was in the '80s, so I'm sure they've come a lot further than they were with war games. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Okay. My turn. So, what might online be like in 5, 10, or 20 years? I really don't have anything different to add than the other two added. But I do think that the online presence, as we've seen here since 2020, with the introduction of the virus and the response to that in schools, for instance, using Zoom. I'd never heard of Zoom. To me, Zoom was a children's show on public television that came out of Boston, Massachusetts, that I watched as a kid, and it was supposedly run all by kids. Produced it and acted in it and wrote it. I don't think I believe that now, but that's what the way it was presented, and it was a fun show. It really was, and they had little segments from all over the world, and trying to give people a glimpse of other countries and how they do things, and it was a good show. But anyway, my point is, when Zoom came out, when the virus happened, it was something that was widely used, and so it became very, very popular out of relative obscurity, as far as I know. And now it is a way that people can be in a virtual room with, even in a work situation. It's used for personal, it's used for work, it's used for, online groups, it's used for counseling. Um, so you don't have to be there. Now, before that, of course, they had the what's the thing that's not FaceTime, but it's the one that's been around forever, where you could have the video.
Oh, crud.
Kept freezing. It freezes all the time. Where you're like, oh,
I
I think
can't,
you're frozen.
I can't remember the name.
Anyway, there's a program out there that's been there for a long time. My mom got it temporarily because she wanted to communicate with people if they weren't able to come in for an appointment. And I got her all set up, and it just kept freezing all the time. Of course, that was a long time ago, but I did set that up for her, and I don't think she ever ended up using it. Glenn says AOL. No, it's not AOL, and that's a whole other thing. AOL was the only program available when we went online.
Skype.
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 There we
That's
go.
what it
Skype.
was.
That's it. Skype. Maybe they've improved Skype, but from what I understand, Zoom works a lot easier and better. You don't have to use a phone line and stuff like that. But yeah, so Skype probably. I mean, I believe they're still around, but it was a
Yeah, I
way
think
to
so.
connect virtually with people. But now they have other ways to do that. They have Zoom. We also have this ridiculous program that we use in order to do the broadcast, where unless you buy it, then you have about an hour, and then you have to uh, disconnect or switch it over. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can connect virtually with other people. I think there's a lot of programs available for that. So 5, 10, 20 years, I think that what happened with the virus and forcing kids to be either homeschooled or to meet their teacher online in a virtual classroom. I mean, I remember when I was a kid when we did a virtual classroom with a school on the other side of the country, and we didn't do it every day or anything. It was just a way to see how another private Christian school, did their curriculum and things like that. And it was kind of cool for me. I was like, oh, cool, school on the other side of the country, and you get to see faces of different kids and stuff like that. So, um, but I have talked to a few people I actually spoke with a teacher, and she was sharing how frustrating it was because she was a person that enjoyed doing the open teaching in a classroom with kids that were actually there, as Jen suggests, people that you can hug if they're crying, or you can walk by their desks and, touch them on the shoulder or whatever, and have that human contact. Well, it's not quite possible if you're doing it virtually. I think it is headed that direction. Will there be more virtual than real? Yeah. And it was Meta was mentioned. So apparently, Facebook is changing their name. They haven't done it quite yet, but they're changing their name to Meta. And that's a whole nother topic for another night. We could do one on the Meta thing, but just briefly, you'll be able to create an avatar of yourself, and they're going to mix virtual reality with real reality. Um, Much like the Pokemon craze, where you could use your phone and they would put virtual things all over the real world. And if you remember the problems that caused, people were walking out into traffic chasing some virtual thing they could only see on their phone and get hit by cars. I'm not
Jeez.
making that up. That actually happened.
Yeah, it did.
So I see a danger to this. And the other thing is the amount of money that people spend. There's a game called Other Life where you can do essentially the same thing, but you can create a virtual world for yourself. Create an avatar however you want to look. You can buy in that game. You can buy apartments and condos and houses and property and clothing and cars and just everything like in the real world. You can purchase in this world, and that's the same thing that's happening in Meta. These big companies are already buying plots of virtual land in this meta world, which from what I understand is set up like the real world. Like you can buy, if you've got a real condo in Seattle at a certain address, you can buy that same condo in the meta world at that same address. But if you're going to do it, you have to rush out and do it now before someone else buys that virtual property that you own in the real world. Now, I would have, I mean, to me, anybody, if someone buys this apartment, buys a plot of land in Meta, this apartment that I live in, that's not going to bother me any. I have no interest at all in being part of Meta, but that's my own personal opinion. But that does tie in. Here's how it ties into this topic, because we're asking the question, is it going to be more virtual than real in 5, 10, 20 years? And I think it says a lot of where we're headed. It sounds like we're headed to this thing. Um, Lastly, a movie, Ready Player One, which I think was a very good movie in my opinion, but that's what it's depicting. It's depicting a life that's so bad on the outside that people long to log in to this virtual reality world where they compete in games and stuff to win, prizes and money that they can then use to buy other special things in the virtual world, upgrades to your car, personal upgrades to your avatar, different clothes and things like that, just like it is now. I mean, that already exists. You can buy
Mm.
things in the virtual world to upgrade your virtual personality or virtual character. So that's definitely where we're headed. It's a great question, but that's where I think we're headed. We're definitely headed. It sounds like to more virtual world. Um, I could say more about community and how that seems to have been destroyed. There are online communities, I'll just say that. And so I'm sure it's going to be similar to that in Meta. There'll be groups of online people that find similar interests. And I heard this the other day that you can do a filter in Meta. So if you just want to meet Republicans or you just want to meet only Democrats, you can set up your filter so that you don't ever meet anyone that doesn't agree with you. Um,
Hmm.
I see an issue with that. I mean, I guess we're kind of headed that way anyway. But there's a lot of interaction still with other people that don't believe exactly the same as you. But I mean, we could be headed for, you just get lobbed in with people that only agree with what you agree with and believe what you believe. And I don't know. I think there's
Yeah.
real danger in that. Just my opinion. Hello to Janet.
Well,
Janet.
yeah. What if? Oh,
Oh no, go ahead. I'll wait.
I was gonna say, with it being online, and you get addicted or dependent on it, um, it makes me think of that Black Mirror episode where I forget what they call it. There's social something where people give you likes, and the
Yes.
girl couldn't. She ended up not being able to fly, and
Yes.
when we get dependent on stuff like that, who's controlling this whole metaverse?
Right.
And would you get kicked out at some point for doing something wrong? Like, it just
Sure.
seems that it's another way to control freedoms,
Sure.
possibly.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
what
know.
what you're referring to, they're already doing in China. So it's a social rating. I'm sure that's not the right term, but you basically everything
That's
you
better than
do,
me. Yeah.
everything you do gets you a social rating, a score, a social score, and that determines what you get. And that Black Mirror episode was exactly that, where people were using their phone and taking certain pictures of their cappuccino with a little cookie with a little bite taken out and set on the plate, and everyone's all dressed and they smile at each other, in all their reactions, whether it's at their apartment or whether it's them at work or at a restaurant. They're rating each other as you see someone that and you say hello, and if they don't say hello in a way that's pleasing to you, then you can rate them 4 stars instead of 5. And their rating, you can see your rating go up or down depending on how someone else rates you. So yeah, who indeed
Jeez.
is in control of this? Jen asked. Yeah, who indeed controls this? In at least the Black Mirror episode, the people that control it are other people when they rate you. So in other words, they do this with Uber, and I drove Uber for a brief time. And they used to have it be that the passenger could rate the driver, but the driver could never rate the passenger. So it was very lopsided. So if the passengers were horrible, if they threw up in your car, or they were just really, really mean and nasty, you could do nothing about it. No, well, throwing up in the car, you could report them, and they would have to pay a hefty fine to get your car cleaned. But other than that, just them being nasty to you,
Yeah.
you couldn't do anything about it. And so people could literally make a driver lose their job by giving them bad ratings over and over again. And when you called an Uber, it literally would come up and it would show the rating of the driver. Now, I fortunately had high ratings as a driver, so I never had to deal with that. But there were other people that were begging people to give them 5 stars because their rating was so bad, and it affected how many rides they could get. And that's where we're headed. So that was good that you brought that up, Jen, because
Yeah.
that social rating system. I don't see that going anywhere good, and that's what the Black Mirror episode. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, I forget the name of it, but I'm sure.
They're very unnerving, but it's interesting too.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, moving on. So the next line from the song, "We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I." And so there's the questions that come from that line. First one, does a code of behavior and rules tend to operate differently in an online environment compared with face-to-face interactions? And we'll switch it up a little bit and ask Glenn first. Does a code of behavior and rules tend to operate differently in an online environment compared with face-to-face interactions? Glenn, what do you think on that one?
That's another one of those questions that I think with some people that have a set of standards that they adhere to, values, etc., that's going to be it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
But I think others may have a totally different, more shady, sinister side to them, and
Sure.
Present differently in an online environment.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's another one of those maybe not sort of answers.
Yeah.
Depends on the person.
It does depend on the person. Now, thank you, Glenn. There are certain codes of behavior in online. In fact, there are some that people think you should know. For instance, not using all caps. So in the virtual world, if you use all caps, it's considered that you're yelling. Now, I remember when I first started on the internet, I liked doing all caps because that's the way I write. When I write someone a letter, I don't use cursive. I use all caps. That's so. I had all the time people initially in the '90s when I started doing like online chats and stuff. Says, "Dude, why are you yelling?" I'm like, "What? Why are you so angry?" I said, "I'm not angry. What do you mean? I'm not using exclamation points." And I remember the moment when someone told me that when you use all caps, it means that you're yelling. So I brought that up to say that there are supposedly certain rules in an online situation. But as far as does a code of behavior and rules tend to operate differently in an online environment, I have seen, and we've talked about on the show, the way people treat each other online. You would never talk that way, where most people, I should say, most people would never say some of the things to someone else in their face that they say online. It just wouldn't happen. There seems to be a level of protection if you think you're anonymous in an online situation where you can go into a chat room like that person that came in here earlier and just as spewing pornography. We don't know who that person is. They're not using their real name. They're using some kind of fake name or sock account, I think they call it, for an account they set up just for that purpose to spam people's chat rooms. And it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I've commented many times, specifically on people that call themselves Christians going into someone else's chat room and yelling at people and telling them that they don't believe the right thing and they're going to hell and all of that. So Um, I'm saying that there should be rules to an online environment.
But not everybody's going to follow it.
Right. Yeah, that's what Glenn was pointing out, that it depends on the person, and it does depend on the person. Now, to me, I try to be just as polite online as I am in person. Um, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not out to rile other people up. Um, but I have learned, particularly on Facebook, I used to debate way more than I do now, and I saw that it was leading nowhere good. And part of the reason why it leads nowhere good, in my opinion, is because they don't know your tone. So if they just read the text, if they
Yeah.
just read what you're trying to say, if you're trying to make a point, and you're not using all caps and you're not using exclamation points, still they cannot tell your tone.
Yeah.
So you're leaving it up to the person to decide, hey, how does he mean this?
Yes.
How does she mean this?
They're reading it through their own lens.
That's right. Leading it through their own lens. So that can cause problems. So even though there are rules, there should be rules to behavior. I don't think they're the same as they are face to face. I don't. I think it's very different, and I think it's different to a lot of people. So even though it should be the same, you should treat people online the same way that you would in person. I don't think that a lot of people do. What do you
Yeah.
think, Jen? What do you think? We have 6 minutes,
5.
5 minutes.
Do you guys want to do it now, or do you want to wait till it
I
gets
think you have
closer?
time. I think you have time to answer the question, but if yeah, just
Refresh the question again. What was the question?
oh, sure. Does a code of behavior and rules tend to operate differently in an online environment compared with face-to-face interactions?
Yeah, I think so. I think people, unfortunately, I feel like some people feel more comfortable to let their ugly out
Yeah, good way
or
to say
to overreact. That lens I was talking about, people reading things, because when you read it, you hear it in your head and
it.
you're
Sure.
kind of reading it through your own lens, and which includes baggage and past relationships that were rocky and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think when you see someone's facial expressions in person, it's just there's more indicators there of what they're saying and how
Sure.
they're saying it, what they mean. But yeah, I feel like common decency just has gone out the window for a lot of people because they just feel safer to be ugly online.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's very unfortunate. I
Yeah.
try to be even more careful because it's online,
Mhm. Yeah.
knowing that this happens,
Right.
that things can
Exactly.
get misconstrued. And I feel like one thing that's not taught in society is for people to ask questions to clarify instead of just, and I've done this. I'm not saying I have not done this. I have totally done
Right.
this where I
Right.
read something through a lens and then I react out of the way I'm reading it.
Hmm.
So I think being, people understanding that, hey, asking it, stopping and asking a simple question like, hey, I'm reading it this way, but could you maybe clarify what you're trying to say so that, because
What
maybe
a
I'm wrong.
what a great point, Jen.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Clarify. It's always good to
clarify.
clarify. Yeah. So I was going to before we do the switch, I'm going to say hello to Janet who popped in, and she's talking in the chat with John. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. We welcome both of you. We're glad to see you. Thank you for joining us on our first 2020 broadcast, which are happy everyone's here. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and make the change before we get to everyone answer that first one. So when we come back, we'll come to the second question on the list. So if you'd like, please stay tuned and we'll be back momentarily. And thank you for hanging out.
Okay.
All right, I think we're back. Thank you for hanging out with us, guys. And if you could just give me something in the chat, let me know that you're able to hear me, and we'll continue on. So we've got a couple people that hung around, and we're happy to be back. That's the price you pay to do a broadcast nowadays, I guess, is to have to switch from place to place because I think that you have. Oh, good. Okay. So Jen says she can hear me. I can hear you. Jen can hear me. Okay.
We need somebody else in the chat to say that. I thought you
Yeah.
could. I thought you could crack up with that.
I did. I got to crack up about. All right.
Okay, Debbie said she can hear
Thank you,
us.
Debbie.
Cool.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate that. Okay. So next question on the list. What are the advantages and disadvantages of online connections in terms of getting to know a person? Jen,
Yes, I was gonna say pick me.
pick you, pick you.
I know we touched on this already, but I do think it's easier, and you guys can let me know if you think differently, but easier to fool people online. I mean, you hear all these stories of people getting to know someone online, a friend or relationship wise, and just them presenting themselves as something, and it's just a fairy tale or farce.
Right.
Um, and then I was just watching I don't know if it was a documentary. It was something where this girl had met a guy online, and they fell in love. Overall, and they hadn't met each other. And I think they met, and it just blew up because she found out. There was all this stuff that she didn't know, and yikes. It's just a lot more trust, I think, has to go in there. Um, so yeah, that's my point.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little scary. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Sure. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
Annette just popped in, so we'll say hello to Annette here really quick. Hey, Annette, we're glad that you're here. Happy New Year to you as well. Hope your holidays went well, and glad that you're taking some time out of your Sunday night, the 2nd of 2022, to share it with us. So we're glad that you're in the chat. Okay, so I'll answer next. What are the advantages and disadvantages of online connections in terms of getting to know a person? Part of it is the thing that Jen already mentioned, talking about getting to meet people that you'd otherwise not get a chance to meet, people that live in different countries, people, different walks of life that you would never run into them at the coffee shop or at work or on the bus or you never meet these people. I think that's always been a pretty clear advantage to the internet in general. So to me, that's one of the first things that pops up. Um, I'm sure there are some other things. It's I think it's fairly easy. You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can get to know someone. Jen and I got to know each other in that way over Messenger and emails and things. Of course, we did the broadcast together. She was a co-host, so I got a chance to hear her a lot. It wasn't just online, and that was the way we got to know each other. And the minute we could meet, we in person, we did, and that thank God that worked out. Didn't blow up or anything like that, and but there was an advantage because we didn't live in the same place to have the online capabilities, the different ways, the emails and the chats and the voice on Messenger where we could hear each other's voice, plus talking on the phone, which we did. We did less of the talking on the phone than we did online because I could sit at my desktop and didn't have to have the phone in my ear. I could put my headphones on and use my microphone and converse with her that way. So I found that a very much an advantage in starting out. Uh, Disadvantages, well, we can use Jen's story, not meeting in person to me it can be a disadvantage. You might get along well with someone online. But just like any relationship, in my opinion, people put their best foot forward first, whether it's online or in person. The person that you're meeting in person, made no sense. If you go out on a date and you're meeting someone in a restaurant, for instance, in most cases, I'm not saying in every case, there would be no way for me to know that in every case this was the way it works out. But just in general, you're not showing them the worst parts of you the first time. You're being kinder, you're being gentler, you're being more friendly to to your server. When it comes time to pay the check, you're not waiting to see if they reach for their wallet or purse. You're paying for it, hopefully. you um, so you're not really getting a chance to know the person. Well, I think it's the same thing online. You meet someone online, at least in a dating situation, and you're putting your best foot forward. You're being kind to them in the chat. You're you know telling them stories about you. It might be embellishing. I don't know. But I don't think you can get to know how good it's going to work until you meet a person face to face.
Yeah, good
I'd,
point.
I'd met other people. I'd met another girl that we met on eHarmony. Actually, met two people like that. The first person I met on eHarmony, nothing wrong with her. It just we didn't have a connection. We got along fairly well online, and when we met in person, it just it she didn't do anything wrong. I didn't dislike her or anything. It just there was no real connection, and that one didn't work out. And then, as you guys have heard the story before, my first marriage, uh, you know, I guess I didn't learn my lesson from eHarmony from
Oh
before.
no.
But this person looked great on paper, and we got along fairly well. Not, frankly, not as well as Jen and I got along, and there were way more similarities with Jen than there was with this person. But we made it work, and um, unlike other online relationships that I had, this person wanted to meet in person right away. I mean, I think we were talking online for like 2 weeks, and then we met in person, and that was a better experience meeting in person. But again, she was uh, putting her best foot forward. So I wasn't seeing the red flags right away. I wasn't seeing the things that would later um,
Be an
prove,
issue.
yeah, prove to be an issue. And so I think that's a disadvantage is you're not seeing what a person is really like online. You're seeing who they want you to see. And then the other disadvantage is the one we've already mentioned, that you don't know that you're even talking to that person because you haven't seen them directly. I have heard in catfish situations where they might even hire a person whose picture or image they're using to show up on the messenger on the video. That has
Oh
happened.
wow.
Or they have their neighbor, hey, come in here and play. I'm playing a trick on a friend. You don't have to say anything. I just want you to let me record your image. And so the person says, hey, let's do FaceTime or whatever, and they have this person they're pretending to be, the image appear. That's happened. So you don't know online if you're really meeting, if that person is who they say they are,
Yeah.
or they show a picture from 10 years ago. And so you're not doing the online thing as far as a direct face to face kind of chat situation, but they're showing a picture. It might be the same person, but they're 10 years older and 20 pounds, 30 pounds heavier. That happens too. So to me, there are more disadvantages to online than there are advantages. And I say that because I have some experience with this. And there were things I liked about it and things I didn't. But ultimately, it just is a lot of things that you can do because it's online, but you don't really know how authentic it is until you meet the person face to face. And I'll go a step further and say you don't know until you live with the person. Because even if you meet face to face and things seem to work out, until you
Yeah.
spend time with that person in the same space, I say take a road trip with someone. If you want to know whether someone's good for you or bad for you, take a 10 hour road trip with them in a car, and you'll get a better indication of whether they're good for you or not. If you guys
Yeah.
make it 10 hours in a car cramped up, and you don't have a problem with stopping off to pee or, if they're
Fighting over the radio.
right, fighting over the radio, someone taking their shoes off and putting their stinky feet close on the dash to you, you get a better indication. All right, Glenn, wait, did I start with Glenn?
I
No,
think you started with me.
I started with you. What are the advantages and disadvantages of online connections in terms of getting to know a person, Glenn?
I think the advantages, what popped into my head was situational advantage, particularly with people that may have young children or find themselves unable to even basically leave the house because they've got responsibilities. I think it's a great way to connect with
Sure,
other people.
sure.
But and many, like I said, in many respects, it's the only way that's available to connect, like
Ah,
with other people.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've been in that situation where I just can't go out. I just couldn't drop. You can't leave a child and go out
right,
and meet
right.
someone. So you do the best you can, and it enables you to have a form of adult conversation,
Yeah.
which is extremely beneficial too.
Right.
So disadvantages, well, personally, I never saw any disadvantages because I thought I was of the opinion, well, you could, if you didn't like where things were heading, you're free to walk.
Yeah,
So
Yeah. And I made that comment earlier about, if they don't live in the same town, it's a little bit easier
sure.
because you're not running into them every
Right,
day after
right.
you've walked away from the
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but
You could block them. I mean, if it's online, if you didn't ever want to hear from them again, you can essentially just block them, and they can't contact you. So um, you don't ever see them again.
yeah,
Uh, it's harder to do that in person. Like that's why they say don't date someone where you work, because you have to. If you break up and it doesn't work out, you come to work and see this person every day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I,
not.
I think if you've got, well, how it worked for me was as time went on, I got more confidence to the point where, regardless if I met someone in person or I was online, I'd say, hey, here's all the things you can reject me for. Yada, yada, yada. I've got the list. I've
Yeah,
got kids. I don't have much money. Give them the
right.
list of all the things. And then if they still want to talk, well, you're getting somewhere. So in
Well,
other words, use online to cut to the chase in the same way as you would if you met them in person.
well, that's exactly what I did with Jen.
Yep.
That's exactly what I did. I didn't want to waste her time, and I certainly didn't want to waste my time either. And I didn't want to mess around with all that stuff. So I did tell her uh, things that I always said, and I really felt like this. Instead of putting your best foot forward on a date, I always thought, well, let's each of us say the worst thing you could possibly imagine on a first date. The thing about yourself that could cause another person to run away fast. Say that on the first date, and if they still want to finish the date after you say that, I mean, it's really a an authentic thing to do, in my opinion, because those things are going to come out eventually. And that was the other thing with Jen. The reason why I did that, I didn't want her to hear things about me from someone else, because that does happen. However you try to hide something about you, there's always someone that doesn't know you're trying to hide it and will mention it. And you guys have heard me talk about when Jen met my sister and her family, and my sister decided it would be a good idea to bring up a DUI that I had had. Now, I am not someone, I've not hidden that. I've talked about it on air before. It is not a secret that I got a DUI in 2002. Now, it's been a long time, and I
Whoa,
haven't
10 years. No, 20 years.
20 years. 20 years ago, I got a DUI, and I didn't do it again. But it was a horrible night, but I wanted Jen to know that this has happened. And sure enough, my sister, we were over there playing cards, and she brought it up. If I hadn't told Jen, maybe she would have been okay with it. Maybe she's like, well, that was 18 years ago at the time or whatever. And maybe she wouldn't have had a problem with it. But what if she did? So because I didn't tell her, then someone else brings it up, and I'm in hot water because of it. No, thank you.
Yeah, it just makes it look like someone's hiding something,
Hmm. Yep.
So that was good that you brought everything up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It was
Here are
good.
all the cards.
Worked out very well. And so the advantage to that is that now I have no secrets. And I know there's someone hearing this would say, "Oh, sure, you don't have any secrets. Everybody has secrets." I don't. Jen knows my code to the phone and the bank account, and she knows all. At any time
Yep.
she can come into my office, and she has access to my computer. She can look at my history and see things that I've looked at. She can look at my phone. She's never asked to do that, but because she knows she can. So she has no need to follow up on me and make sure I'm not lying. There is total openness and authenticity in our relationship, and that's not. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying I'm making a point that you should be willing in your relationship to open yourself up to a person like that. When I see a movie or TV show where someone is picks up their lover's phone or their boyfriend or girlfriend's phone or husband, and they react to that, like, what are you doing with my phone? Like, it's not your phone. If you're married, it's our phone. It's our bed. It's our apartment. It's our house. It's our car. It's not separate between the two people. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that. That's the way I look at it. The finances, the checks that we bring in are our checks, the same way that the debt is ours. So I'm no longer a single person in a relationship. I'm not. The two of us are a couple. That's what the term couple means to me. You're no longer an individual. I mean, yes, of course, you're an individual in that my name is Jason, her name is Jennifer. So we're not the same person. She's a person. I'm a person, but we're in a couple. So essentially, everything is shared. When she's sad, I commiserate with her and I comfort her. When I'm sad, the same thing. So we're in it together, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did everybody answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I may need Glenn to explain this next question. I'll read the question and then I'll ask Glenn to go first, and he can explain what he means by this because I'm not sure I fully understand. The question is, what is the Christian attitude to online relationships with a third party of the same sex as a partner? So it's the third party thing that threw me off. I think what you're asking is, what is the Christian attitude about same sex dating?
No,
Okay.
no, it's asking because I just happened to see something that flashed up on the screen. I thought, oh, okay, let's take the hypothetical. You're talking online to a woman,
Uh-huh.
and and having a relationship essentially with another woman because you're
Uh-huh.
communicating with them online. What's the
Oh.
Christian attitude to relationships with when you're married, etc., or in relationship,
Oh.
whatever? What's the Christian attitude? And I want to compare it then what my attitude would be in talking to other people.
Okay, great. I'll take that one first because this has actually come up between us because being on YouTube and things like that, I have occasionally met women on Facebook or whatever. I have no attraction. I have a few friends that Jen doesn't mind me talking to without her there, but I don't make a habit of doing it. Um, but she made it clear to me early on that she didn't want me talking, and I totally respect that. I didn't think that there was a problem with that at all. That she didn't want me talking to other girls without her being there. So when we meet a couple or a person that we like and we want to be able to have conversations with them, we create a three-way chat, and that's what we've done with Glenn. That's how I mean, I had been talking to Glenn before Jen came along, but when Jen came along, we created a three-way chat, and the three of us would have conversations in there. So everybody was part of the conversation, and it was a good way to get to know each other that way. And that's the rule that we have for us. I don't, like I said, there's a couple women that she knows that I talk to from time to time that she doesn't have an issue with. that are okay. But in general, the rule is that I don't do that. So I follow that rule.
We, not just you, but we.
We, we,
We don't
yes,
do that.
we
And
don't do
it's
it.
not so much of an I don't trust Crips. I think
Right,
it's just more of a precautionary
right,
boundary.
right,
Because, I know Jason and I are fully committed to each other, and I
right.
trust that. But sometimes, when you're I think like talking about deep stuff, and we always go to the deep area of the pool
Yeah,
with
yeah.
people and with each other. But I think there is the possibility of someone, having feelings for Jason, and I trust him. And it's not so much of like, how dare you, other person? He's a great catch, like, because he is.
Oh,
But it's just a safeguard. Was the word? That
yeah.
was the word I was thinking of. A safeguard.
Safeguard. So let me answer the next part of this from a different angle because I know. So the idea of it being a Christian attitude, I think that generally the Christian attitude would be that you don't do that. I think that that is the general attitude about it. But I have run into a lot of people that call themselves Christians that don't have this rule at all. In fact, there's one person in particular I'm thinking of whose name I will not mention, who has told me that she has gotten in trouble before for this very reason of talking to other guys. Um, whether something happened or not, I'll leave that out. But she's gotten in trouble doing this very thing. But she's still doing it. Like she says, "Oh, yeah, I've gotten in trouble for this, and it caused problems in our marriage." But and she's still married to that person. But yes, she's still uh, carrying on with that behavior. So it didn't seem to change anything. Maybe it should have. I don't know. I'm not judging anyone else. I'm just saying that not everyone that claims to be Christian follows the same rule. It does happen pretty frequently. And of course, I've heard stories of this getting people into trouble. To me, an online relationship, an emotional affair, is no better than a physical affair. If you're going to someone else to get something you should be getting in your marriage, and you're getting it from someone else, that is asking for trouble. Asking for trouble, in my opinion. So it maybe is the general attitude, but it is not something that I see followed in every area when it comes to this particular topic. What do you think, Jen? Christian attitude to online relationships with a third party of the same sex as a partner.
Yeah, I think there are some people that come at it from a controlling aspect, and I don't think that's good because then it sets this air of I'm setting this boundary for me or even for you, and I'm not even you because I don't trust you. Or it can give the air of mistrust, and I
Right.
don't think that's I think that's poison to a relationship.
Sure.
Um, I think it is a safeguard. Um, that it could be used as a safeguard. I know it is for us, but I know in other relationships it can be a means of control.
Yeah.
Now there are probably, couples out there that completely trust each other, and even if someone else were to fall for one of them, if they were talking to somebody,
Right.
it's they're still not going to fall for them, kind of a thing. They'll set boundaries and take care of it on their own.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I generally wouldn't encourage it, but at the same time, I don't know, I guess it just depends on the person. Like sometimes you can have a really good friend of both the wife and the husband, and there's trust within that threesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there can be some talking. Like I talk to Glenn sometimes without Jason, you,
Yeah.
and there's trust there, in all
Yeah.
all parts.
Of course.
So that's my opinion. I think it should be a safeguard. And I guess it depends on each person. Each person has baggage and sensitive areas and
Sure.
areas of trust that may have nothing to do with their current spouse. It could be stuff that's from their past that
Sure.
they're working through. And if there weren't a boundary there, it would make it tougher to heal.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of like different levels.
Yeah.
Just depends on the people.
It's interesting you bring up Glenn. So the thing is, I trust you first and foremost, but I also trust Glenn. I know that he would never do anything to jeopardize our relationship because he was very instrumental in actually helping us
Yeah.
to get to know each other, and by his question asking and things, and helping you realize the situation you were in previously was not a good place. So I still say, and I will say it publicly, that he was instrumental in us even being together in the first place, but for very many reasons.
Yeah.
So of course I don't mind you talking to him. Like I said, because I trust you, but also because I trust him. So there's that. Before I get to Glenn, I'll say hello to Mike, the Nut House, who has stopped by. I actually went on his channel and did a little interview situation, kind of fun thing that we've done a couple times, and it was a lot of fun. And he was very thankful. I mean, like over the top thankful to me for that, and it was not a big deal at all. It was a lot of fun, and I didn't mind doing it at all. So if you get a chance, go watch the New Year's Eve episode over there at the Nut House, and you'll hear yours truly um, doing a little fun
It's like
thing
a skit,
for
or
friends. Well, we did do a skit, but generally, what I see, I don't want to say what I did. I'll
I was wondering why you were like,
Oh, well, he said, well, see, John already said it. He said it in the chat. What I did. So it was an interview, and I pretended to be someone, and apparently a lot of people bought it, and because it's who people say I sound like. So anyway, it's on there. So go to the Nut House and listen to that broadcast. I after the surprise wears off, I might put that on the channel so that people can hear it. I do have a playlist that it's under friends channels on there, so I might put that in there. Anyway, welcome to the Nut House. Thanks for stopping by. Always appreciate it. And okay, so Glenn, we've both answered, and you wanted to give your opinion on this question. What is the Christian attitude to online relationship with a third party of the same sex as a partner?
Well, I could take the Christian bit out, but I'd say,
I was waiting for you. You're so predictable.
well, there you go. I didn't want to let you down. No safeguards here. No, there's just wouldn't even think about it. Just do what you want.
Cool.
Is that
Yeah.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because why would there need to be safeguards?
I mean, is it because of trust
Well,
that you guys have with each other, or is it more than that?
it's just
Or it's
automatic.
just not a thought that you guys
just
don't
not.
think
It's
about
just
it?
automatic. You talk to whoever you want. You do what you like. No one checks up on you. No. Just talk to whoever you
Now,
want.
is that a you and Sandra thing, or is that an Australian thing?
Oh no, that'd be between each couple.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's going to be like that. Like we've had when we not long after we got together, one of Sandra's ex-boyfriends wanted to come round and catch up, take her to dinner. I said, "Yeah, go for your life, enjoy yourself." So he turns up in this flashy red sports car. I thought, bastard. So yeah,
That's
you just
hilarious.
go and enjoy yourself.
There's the truth.
Are you coming back?
That was great. That was classic. I love it.
Ow.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's all good.
I don't know if you'll want to answer this or not, but so I understand your attitude about it, but do you kind of lift your nose at people that want to use this as a safeguard? If they're not in the same place you are, what's saying is, well, why should there be a problem with this?
I think people do what works for them. That's their decision, nothing to do with me.
Right.
So it's like if they did it, if they said, "Well, gee, Glenn, you trust Sandra," and I'd say, "Well, what's it got to do with you?"
Yeah.
Like, it's everyone do their own thing, whatever works. As I said, yeah, easy.
Right. Got it. Okay, perfect. Next question. Is there a difference in the way boundaries, if any, might be initiated online compared with non-online? Is there any difference in the way boundaries, if any, might be initiated online compared with non-online? Do you want to answer that one first, Jen?
Oh crap! I wasn't listening.
Okay, I'll go first. Is there a
Okay.
difference in the way boundaries, if any, might be initiated online compared with non-online?
Uh,
There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. To me, online or in person, if someone puts out a boundary, it should be it should be respected regardless of whether it's online or not. For instance, online, if someone says, "I will talk to you until 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. and then I have to go to bed because I have to get up work early." Now, if that person makes that boundary and he or she decides for whatever reason to break their own boundary, that's not what I'm saying. But the other person should be respectful of that. If they set that boundary, it should be initiated or respected in the same way. If it were in person, someone says, "Oh, I can hang out with you until 11, then I have to go." They should be understanding of that. It should be just as easy to initiate a boundary online as it is to in person. I don't really know if it is. In past online relationships, I didn't really have to. I can't think of any boundaries that I had to set necessarily. Um, yeah, I can't think of any. Uh, but if there were boundaries, they should be the same. There should be no difference between the two. It should be easy to set something up. Maybe a person says um, online, they'll say, "I'll talk to you in Messenger. I'll talk to you on the phone. I'll send emails, but I'm not going to do video." Now that's kind of suspect. Why did someone do video? But they have their reasons. If that's a boundary someone sets up, it should be easy to initiate that and set that up, and the other person should be respectful of that. Maybe the person's just shy, or maybe they don't like the way they look. I don't know, but for whatever the reason is, um, if they set up a boundary, I think it should be respected. What do you think, Jen? You ready to answer that one?
yeah. I would agree with you. I think the same for both. The
Sure.
same boundaries for both. I think because I could see somebody possibly trying to do something nefarious if they weren't the same,
Yeah.
like trying to get around. Well,
Yeah.
I was online. Doesn't count. So yeah, that's my short answer.
It's the same. Not one. I don't want to make a too big a deal about this, but you see that the Nut House said hello to you,
Yeah,
Jen.
I did.
Yeah,
Thank you, Monocle Man.
there you go. Monocle Man said hello. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Mr. Mike.
There you go. Okay. Um, all right. What about you, Glenn? Is there a difference in the way boundaries, if any, might be initiated online compared with non-online?
No, I don't think so. I think um, I'm the same. If someone I was communicating with, whether in person or online, said something that made me uncomfortable, like in other words, overstepping an implied inverted commas boundary, I'd say so straight away.
Sure.
So effectively, I don't set boundaries until they might need to be set.
I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like, okay, when you meet someone new, you're like, okay, here's my boundaries. I'm doing this, and if you do this, I'm done. If you do that, yeah, I'm like that too. I don't feel a need to set up boundaries where there doesn't need to be any. I'm sure people would argue with that. People in the health and wellness community might say you need to make it very clear right from the beginning what your boundaries are. But why would you set up a boundary if you don't need one? If you're with a person that is respectful of you as a person,
Yeah.
there
That might
wouldn't
be
be.
kind of off-putting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Think about it from that perspective.
Oh, that makes me think of that channel that we've been watching where there's these entitled people setting up dating profiles and they're like, you must be blonde, you must
Yeah,
have blue eyes, you must not weigh more than this and make
right.
this much money a week. And
You must not weigh
like,
more than 50 stone.
it's like, what in the
whatever
world?
whatever that
Oh,
is.
geez.
Yeah, yeah. So those dating apps can very much be like that. There's a lot of expectations put out there. Some of them are ridiculous. You must make at least 500K a year. I mean, they have some really pretty lofty expectations, honestly. So
Probably
that's
still single.
probably still single indeed. Okay,
Ew.
we got through that one. All right, next line. A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. I can't wait to get to that part. But anyway, a full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. The first question is, do you believe it's possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention of ever meeting the other party? And I'll answer that first because I actually was like that. Um, I didn't purposefully try to find someone that lived, you know, super far away from me. I wasn't necessarily trying to do that. But when I first started online relationships, my self esteem was very low about my appearance. In a lot better place now, because obviously I've been working on this for a very long time. But I had a fear. I wouldn't put it into the level of phobia, but when I first started, I just wanted to have that online relationship. I wanted to have all the benefits of an online relationship without meeting them in person. And some people were cool with that. I mean, you know, I talked to a girl that lived in Las Vegas. She was a Fruit Loop. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. The
Was this
story.
the one with the flowers? Was there something that happened
No,
with
no, no.
flowers?
That she was in Michigan. Yes, you
Oh,
well,
okay.
you have a good memory. No, that was a little different. No, but the one in Las Vegas, I actually had gotten to the point where I was willing to meet her in person, and but she told me that she had agoraphobia and that she didn't leave her house. That's not what made her a Fruit Loop. It was other things. She was really, really new age, and she had a lot of weird beliefs. Did the she had a spirit guide that helped her and her mom write a children's book, and that was one of many things that were kind of red flags about that. But before all that was known, I had talked about flying to Las Vegas and meeting her. I was setting my fear aside and doing that. But to answer the question, do you believe it's possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention? That's a really, really great question. I don't think I looked at online relationships in the same way as I would full commitment. Now that I didn't, when I found someone I liked online, I didn't have other online relationships that I was juggling at the same time. So for me, if I was into a person, that was the only person I was into. So in that way, to me, it was a full commitment. And then I'm focusing on this one person. I'm emailing them. I'm communicating with them, and I'm not talking with other girls at the same time. But that is not necessarily a full commitment as it implies in the question. Is it possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention?
And any form is in friendship as well?
Um, it doesn't say that, but it, I think it says any form. No, it says any form. So yeah, friendships as well. Yeah. So yes, I think you can make a full commitment to be someone's true friend without ever meeting them in person. I think that's possible. Um, I don't think meeting someone in person is it doesn't make the relationship less important if you don't ever, like, okay, for instance, if I make a friend in England, and we're really close, and I don't have the money to go to England. I may never have the money to go to England. I may never meet that person, but we're really good friends. We talk pretty consistently, and if I ever had the opportunity, this would be someone that I would look up. uh, I would say I'm fully committed to the friendship, even though I'm not ever going to meet them in person. So I think it's sure, it is possible for me. What do you think, Jen? Do you believe it's possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention of ever meeting the other party?
I think hypothetically, yes. I would say for me personally, more so a friendship than like an actual relationship. Because for me, if it were a romantic relationship, I would want it to go further, like, actually see each other and get married and live together and all that stuff like you and I are doing.
Yeah.
So that would be more difficult. Now, say I met you and there wasn't any way that we could actually fly to see each other, or
Right.
it just wasn't possible for some
Right.
reason,
Right.
I'd say yeah. Uh, yeah. If it was you, only if it was you though.
Only if it was me. Well, in general, what you're saying, I agree with that you can be committed to a person even if you're not ever going to meet them. So your online relationship is just as serious as it would be if you lived in the same town.
Yeah. Like I've met really good friends online that I haven't met, and I may never meet them.
Right.
And I treat them and the friendship like I would if
Yeah.
we were friends in person and lived
Yeah.
closer together. I cherish them just as much.
Good point. Good point. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn, on this one, do you believe it's possible to make a full commitment to any form of relationship online without having the intention of ever meeting the other party?
You bet.
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
a yes, absolutely. I would think that is very relevant to most of us on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
In terms of a dating situation, I would have never tried to form an online relationship with someone without having the desire to meet them.
Right. Right.
I would always want to meet them.
Right.
I mean, I
Sure.
did fly to the other side of the world at one point.
You did indeed. Yeah. So that's the perfect example that keeps coming up all the time on these broadcasts. Your my mother and yourself, and she flew to meet you. So it went both ways. She wasn't trying to not meet you, and you weren't trying to not meet her. You weren't doing that. So, okay, you got that, Jen?
Yeah.
All right.
Wait. Got what?
In the chat, we got Love Face is back. I don't know how that happens.
Okay.
How do you do an online strip without clothing? That means you're already naked. That's got me a bit confused. I think can you tell that person they need to clarify their English?
Yeah. Clarify your English. Love Face XYZ. What in the world? I mean, there's no link or anything, so I don't know what the point of that would be, but okay.
I think it's just to troll people.
It's just to get you excited, Crips.
Uh-huh. Well, that
Oh, sorry, that was me being naughty.
Oh, that's okay. It doesn't do a single thing for me. I have everything I need in person, so I certainly don't need to get it online.
That was very predictable, Crips.
I am
It's the truth,
staggeringly
though.
predictable when it comes to that. There you go. All right, so we all kind of agree on that one. The next one, who says you won't get this from any other guy? Think so? Duh. LOL. Ego. Who says you won't get this from any other guy, Glenn?
Not me.
Not me. No.
I don't understand the question. What?
He's saying, yeah, go on, Crips.
In the song, he's saying you won't get this from any other guy. Talking about a full commitment from the line above. A full commitment's what I'm. So he's saying in the song, he's saying to the person listening, a full commitment's what I'm thinking of. So he's making clear he's not just out for a one night stand or whatever. He's looking for a full commitment, and then he's saying you won't get this from any other guy. And then Glenn is saying, do you think that's true? Duh, it's ego. It's ego to say that.
Oh.
So what do you think?
Oh, it is. It is prideful.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of just saying it, show it.
Right.
Just show it with action. You could be full of hot air, a bunch of words.
Yeah, sure. And how does he know what other guys do or don't do? I mean, yeah, of course we know there are a lot of.
And it could be a line.
Mhm.
You know, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those people, men or women, that are like, I am so trustworthy. I am so nice.
Yeah.
That's self-proclaiming. And usually that's a red flag. You're like, people
Sure.
don't normally walk around saying this out loud. People see it by your actions.
Yeah. I agree. Good night, Janet. We send hugs and prayers to you. I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and thanks for coming by, Janet. We love you.
Love you, Janet.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's ego for sure. To say you won't get this from any other guy, gosh, that's awfully presumptive.
Yeah.
Yeah. he has no idea what other guys will do, or I mean, of course, I've heard of people that just want a hookup. I mean, there's a whole dating app for just hookups. It's not for commitment. And going into that, you swipe right or swipe left, whatever it is, and you go meet someone and you just have sex or do whatever you're going to do, and then you may not ever see that person again. Now, I don't know, but maybe that has led to a real relationship, a full commitment. I
Probably
don't.
more rare.
It's probably more rare. I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, so ego on that one. That one's an easy one to get past. So we all answered that one, right?
Yes,
All right,
I
next
think.
one.
Yeah.
Next line. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling, got to make you understand. So the first question related to that line, is it easier to share feelings and thoughts via an online connection? What do you think, Jen? Is it
Hmm.
easier to share feelings and thoughts via an online connection?
I know I'm just gonna speak for me.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it's easier. And part of that, again, like I mentioned before, is from my own baggage. I, for most of my life, didn't have a safe place to actually share my feelings where it
Right,
was received well or understood, or
right, right.
like it was okay, it was safe to share. So
Sure.
um, over the years with healing, it's been beneficial to have online to be able to share how I'm feeling. Like, for example, with you,
Yeah.
there's been some times that I've been upset with you, and I have felt safer sending it in a message, and
Yeah.
then we'll still talk, but it's just me getting out the words of like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is how I'm feeling."
Uh-huh.
So that just being an example of there's a safety in that, because I've grown up being afraid of confrontation, so
Sure.
it's a little
Sure.
bit softer for me,
Right.
a little bit safer to share
Yeah. That
in
makes
written
sense.
form.
Yeah.
I'm the girl who grew up writing these long letters to her parents when she was upset, because I just didn't feel safe walking in the room and be like, "Hey, I'm really upset about this."
Yeah.
Um, but I've been growing and changing with that, um, mostly because I have safe people around me that I can approach and talk to.
Sure.
So that's good.
Sure. Well, I would agree with you that it is easier to share feelings online than in person. Now, I really don't have as much of an issue sharing things in person, but I would agree with you, Jen, that for me it's easier to write things out than it is for me to say it verbally. And I have gotten better the more I've done these broadcasts and gone on other people's shows. I feel like I've gotten better at getting my thoughts out. Machine gun thoughts. Just putting them out there. But in general, it still is easier when I read something that I've typed or handwritten. I think it's an easier way to do it than it is for if I'm in an actual conversation. It has gotten a lot better, but especially something, as you said, Jen, something that's emotionally charged. It's easier for me to just lay it all out there. And I think I've mentioned this before. Sometimes my mother would piss me off, and I would write her an email, getting all my thoughts out, and that's the way I felt comfortable doing it. And she would refuse to read it. She was like, she would see that it was emotionally charged, and she would refuse to read it. And that made me even more angry. I said, I would explain to her that the reason I'm writing it in email because it's easier for me to get my thoughts and feelings out, and then it's done. I say it, it's done. She can read it or not read it. We can talk more about it in person if she wants to, but I'm just getting my feelings out. And she didn't respond to that. That was her right. I mean, it's every person's right to do it however they want, but I always thought that was strange. What do you think, Glenn? Is it easier to share feelings and thoughts via an online connection?
In general, I'd say yes, because you do get a chance to write and revise and read what you've written rather than shoot from the hip,
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
right.
what a lot of people do. I'm more inclined just to shoot it
Yeah,
and not proofread it, but other
yeah.
people will want to be very articulate, and the online gives them an opportunity to do that. Now, I'd never
Sure.
do this with Sandra. I'd never send her a message online saying yada yada yada. I'd
Right.
say, I'd say, well, I just go and say, hey, you,
Hey, oi.
I've got something to say to you.
Yeah,
I'm pissed off with you.
yeah.
Beep beep beep. It's all over. It's all over in 30 seconds. Yeah, it's
Is
all
that the
sorted
car
out.
or your mouth?
No, that's the beep beep. That's the beep. The 4 letter words.
Beep, beep,
So,
beep. There you go.
so yeah, that yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but for me, I tend to have an easier time, like you had just mentioned, Glenn, articulating my thoughts when I write. And maybe that's just because I did avoid confrontation growing up, and so I was writing more letters than I was talking to people. So I just like, worked on those particular muscles other than the
Right.
other ones. Um,
Right.
but yeah, but there's also for writing for me at least personally, it connects to a part of my heart I feel like I have a harder time connecting to when I talk.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fine to write things out. It's just, I think it's fine. I mean, I'm sure there are people that don't like that, like my mother. But well, it was just if it was emotionally charged.
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone was, and she did this. It wasn't just to me. She did it to Shannon too. Shannon would send an angry email at my mother, and I'm giving the impression that we're always angry with her, and that's not the case. But when she did something that one of us was not happy about, like one of the things she did was when she was going to divorce my dad for the second time, and my dad had broken his back, and so we moved him into Shannon's house because she has a lot of room in there, and she moved him into a room so that while he was convalescing, that he could be taken care of. It was easy, and I rented the basement out from them at the time, so I was there and I helped a lot with that too. But it just was easier. Well, my mom spent a lot of time with Shannon's kids, her grandkids, and she would take them out somewhere or take them over to her place, and then she'd drop them off, and she would refuse to come in the house. That was her boundary, and nobody agreed with it. And I look at it a little bit differently now, not just because she's passed on, but just because I've grown and changed and matured. And I see it now as that was what she needed to do. And I should have been more respectful of that. But Shannon was really hurt by it. She's like, you can't come in the house for a second when you bring the kids. You just drop the kids off and let them walk inside. I mean, she would sit there and wait and watch them walk inside, make sure they were safe and all that. But she did not want to see my dad at that time. Now later, after some time went by, she had adjusted a little bit, and she would come to birthdays and stuff at my sister's house. And then initially she would stay just long enough to see the kids open their presents or whatever, and then she would just take off. It was a very limited amount of time, and as they learned to communicate, prior to them splitting up and selling the house, it got a little easier for her. But at first, that was very difficult for other people. My mom's boundaries, um, as I've said before, sometimes they hurt people,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure. This is a topic we could probably do a show about, but I'm not sure that if your boundaries hurt someone else, I mean, if you have to set up a boundary that's painful for other people, I don't know. It sounds like a kind of a complex topic because it sounds like I'm trying to dictate someone else's boundaries, and that's not right. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like some of her boundaries that was hurtful to Shannon. That particular boundary of her not being willing to come in the house, it was hurtful to someone else, and I'm not sure that's always good, but that's what she needed to do. So there, that is.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw 10 minutes in there. What are we at now?
7.
7 minutes.
Might be
Okay.
6.
We have
Yeah,
time for
6.
one more probably. The next one is it possible to make you understand what another person may be feeling regardless of medium of connection? I love this question. It's probably one of my favorites.
You go first.
Okay. Is it possible? No. You can't make someone understand anything. You can talk to your blue in the face. You can't make someone understand something. You might be operating out of complete and total logic, 100% logic. You could make your point with intensity and feeling and go over every possible angle of it, but you can't make someone understand regardless of the connection. Either they understand or they don't. and it's up to them to be accepting of whatever it is you're presenting. And sometimes they're not going to understand. Maybe they refuse to understand. Maybe they don't want to understand. So in that case, how can you ever make someone understand anything? I realize it's just a pop song. I get that, but it's a weird thing to say. Can you make someone? So the actual line is, "I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. Got to make you understand." Okay, I get what he's saying. He's saying, he's got feelings for this other person. He wants to make her understand that the feelings are real and stuff. I mean, he can try. He can. I'm not saying you can't try, but at the end of the day, I don't think you can make someone understand anything. It depends on how receptive they are to what it is you're trying to explain. That's my answer to that. What do you think, John? Can you make someone understand regardless of the medium of connection?
No, it's someone's choice, I think, to understand or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I mean, you
agree.
could try, but you
Sure,
know,
you can try.
and sometimes people don't want to understand. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they don't want to.
They don't want to or they can't. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Glenn, what about you? Can you make someone understand anything regardless of the medium of connection?
Can we play a trumpet? I'll say it softly. I agree with Chris. Did you hear it?
The trumpet? Yeah.
What about the other bit? I agree with Cripps.
Oh my gosh.
I know it hurts me, but I do agree with him.
It's
Yeah.
the sign of the end of the
Oh,
times.
oh my goodness! It's artificial intelligence. No, I agree with Cripps. You can't make people understand because they see things from their own perspective.
Right, right. You see, as Jen has said a couple times during this broadcast, you see it from their own lens, and I like that term.
Yeah.
We all have a lens through which we see the world, and you could say your own perception of the world, or how you see relationships, or how you see religion or beliefs or whatever. You're seeing it through a lens, whether you agree with that or not. And I hear the point made all the time. I'm not trying to switch this into a spiritual conversation, um, but I hear all the time, well, you believe what you believe because of what part of the country you were born in, because your parents believed it. And I hear that. I mean, if I was born in India, I would still come to the same conclusion that whatever my parents taught me to believe, as an adult, I still get to the point where I have to decide, is that what I believe or not, regardless of what part of the country I'm in. But I don't argue that you have a certain lens that you grew up with. Socioeconomic, religion, race, all of those things play a part in what kind of lens you have. Not
Yeah.
saying it controls you. You don't have to let it control you. Regardless of of those things, you can change your lens. You can decide to look at things from someone else's perspective.
Oof. I just changed mine recently.
Oh, okay. We've got like 3 minutes. Do you want to wait till we come back or will
Two,
you remember
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
I'll remember.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Under a minute.
Okay, under a minute. Let's go ahead and change over, guys. We'll be right back. We're going to change the chat over. So for those of you that are still hanging out with us, we'll be back in just a moment. Thank you.
going.
Okay. All right. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around, whoever's still here. We had more listeners earlier, and I think several people had to go, and I certainly understand that. But we just thank anyone who's still listening. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone, even the people. I know Janet. She has a limited shelf life when it comes to being able to set up, and we pray for Janet all the time. She has a lot of physical pain, so we certainly understand that. So we're just happy to see her whenever she's able to make it. All right. So without further ado, Jen was answering this. She had something that she wanted to add. Um, Go ahead, Jen. Finish your.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I had a huge lens shift recently. There's this little book my mom shared with, she told me about it, and it's called The Joy of Self Forgetfulness.
Mhm.
I think that's the name. Um, but she, before I read it, she was mentioning to me that she was saying this book explains that we don't have feelings, we have ego. And I was like, what? And then I was thinking, well, yeah, we have ego, but having an ego doesn't what is the word I'm looking for? Discount the fact that we have feelings. I didn't understand. But then I read the book, and the one thing I loved about it was it did address inflated ego, but it addressed deflated ego as well, which was
Right.
huge for me because specifically with some of the stuff that I've worked through with my family, um, looking at it through this new lens, I'm like, wow, okay, it was because of my deflated ego that I was reacting to
Right.
stuff, and having more understanding about that
Yeah.
through the lens of scripture, because it's based off of First Corinthians, and I can't remember the exact scriptures, but some things that Paul was saying, and it just really cleared some stuff up for me. So I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I had a lack of ego, but it's not the lack of ego, it's just deflated ego.
Right.
We're going to do a write up on it because it's really good stuff. I think it could be very helpful for people. But to be able to have such a huge shift in the lens that I even reading things from, because before I read this book, I had a little altercation with my brother, and he sent me a text, and there was something in the text that it triggered me, and I did ask for clarification
Yeah.
in the midst of me reacting.
Right.
I
In the
tried.
midst of, yeah.
I tried. But now when I look back at that memory and how I was, again, this plays into this because it was online, it was through text. I look back at it and I remember the feelings that I felt. And in light of this new lens, I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. Which was a huge deal when it happened. So that's
Right.
pretty interesting. So that's what I was going to share. But what was the question again? Because I don't think did I answer it through that, or should I?
You did. Is it possible to make you understand what another
Oh, I did.
person
Okay.
might be feeling? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone had a chance to answer that one, so we'll just move on. The next grouping of lines is never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to run around and desert you, never going to make you cry, never going to say goodbye, never going to tell a lie and hurt you. So the first question related to those lines: do you believe that it is easier to be misunderstood when communicating online compared with in person? And I'll start with Glenn on
Oh
this
man.
one. Oh, no, go ahead, Jen, if you want to
Yeah.
go.
Only if Glenn's okay with it. Glenn, if you want to go
No,
first, that's
go.
cool.
No, go for your life.
Okay. I would say yes. It's easier to misinterpret people. And we've talked about this a couple times on different shows, but
Mhm.
you're not hearing the inflections in people's voice and tone of voice, and on top of that, people coming to each other talking over it online through different lenses. You're not the same person. You're two different people with two different histories.
Yeah.
I think I think you have to be more careful. I don't know if careful is the right word. I think on both ends. Yeah, careful may be a good
Diligent.
word for that. Diligent, careful.
Yeah.
On both ends, one in how you communicate to the person, but also how it's being received and asking clarifying
Agreed.
questions. So that'd
Yeah.
be my answer.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. What
Yeah.
about you, Glenn? Do you believe that it's easier to be misunderstood when communicating online compared with in person?
I think it's a yes/no answer. I
Yeah.
understand what Jen said, but I also think what's probably more relevant is that the other party to the relationship actually has a desire to understand you and doesn't
Oh,
project their own what's the word I'm looking interpretation
right.
immediately upon it, and is actually saying, well, I need to understand this. And a lot of people don't do that. They, like Jen said, they sit there, they knee jerk react, they don't clarify, and I think that can happen in life or online. I think it's
Sure.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Point.
So I think it's yes, no.
Point.
Yeah. I
Okay.
do that sometimes, the knee jerk reaction, and
Sure.
ugh,
Well, you're working on it. I
yeah, I'm
mean,
learning.
you just gave an example how you have learned from doing that, and it's not something you want to do. I mean, the knee jerk reaction thing. We've all done it. It's something we can change. We can mature and do better about it, even if we've done it in the past. We all have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm up. Do you believe that it's easier to be misunderstood when communicating online compared with in person? Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned earlier when you're typing in text specifically, it's hard to portray your tone, and misunderstandings happen all the time like that. Emails that are misconstrued or chatting online and you say something you don't mean anything by it, but someone's feelings are hurt. Happens all the time. But even if you're hearing someone, it's still, I think it's easier because you don't see their facial expressions. So even if you're able to hear their tone, you're not seeing what their face looks like when they say something to you. And again, even if you're doing the online thing where you're doing FaceTime or Skype or Zoom or whatever, and you can see their facial expressions, I still think there's an element, like Jen was saying earlier, where if you're in person, it's just a completely different thing to me. Um, I like what Glenn said. I mean, you can misunderstand someone even if you're in person, depending on whether you want to misunderstand or where you are when you're communicating with someone. Do you really want to know? Do you really want to understand them properly? Is that something you care about? Is that important to you? And as Jen was saying, I think you just, in any kind of communicating, you have to be careful. You have to be diligent. You have to ask for clarification. And again, as Jen said, make sure that you're not allowing yourself to have a knee jerk reaction to something being said until you ask for clarification and then have a knee jerk reaction. Wait till you understand what's being said fully first, right?
Yes.
Okay. The next question, do you know of any instance where an existing relationship has been affected by an online connection with another and the words let down, run around, desert you, make you cry, tell a lie, and hurt you, and say goodbye, where those words are applicable? I have such a hard time with that word. I don't know why.
It's the two P's.
Applicable.
Applicable.
There you go. What do you think, Jen?
I'm trying to wrap my brain around this question.
Do you know of any instance where an existing relationship has been affected? So you're already in a relationship with someone, and that relationship has been affected by an online connection with another, and the words let down, run around, desert you, make you cry, tell a lie, and hurt you, and say goodbye, where those words are applicable.
Wait, is this two people or three? Online connection with another.
You want me to explain?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
I'm just asking you, do you know of any situation, not necessarily your own, of anyone around you that has been affected by someone else, by that person having a relationship online with, etc., etc.? In other words, a compromising situation where it's basically ruined a relationship.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You mean like with infidelity, maybe?
Well, with anything it
Yeah.
could be. It could be like as Crip suggested, you could be living out of a poor relationship vicariously through somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I have a close friend who was married and had kids and got reconnected with a guy from high school through Facebook Messenger.
Oh,
and started as an emotional affair and
yep.
became physical, and she got pregnant and just
Oh,
blew up the family.
wow.
Now she learned from it. It took a while, but it was very hurtful and harmful and just touched a lot of people's lives, her kids and her ex-spouse and her, and then the relationship that she got into uh did not end well at all. Like, it
Oh,
was
okay.
very abusive
Destructive.
and
Yeah.
destructive, and it just was like a atomic bomb going off.
Mm,
So that was very unfortunate.
yeah.
um Not good. So yeah, that would be my answer.
So, Jen, quickly, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think that your safeguard mentality or approach would have had a an impact in a situation like that?
It may have staved off her getting involved emotionally with this person, like getting reconnected, if they would have had that safeguard in place. But obviously there was things going on in the marriage that led to that. And so I
Yeah.
think if it hadn't have gone down that road, I think it would have just manifested in a different way,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
What about you, Crips?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. There have been many relationships, ones I've heard of, where the relationship that someone else is in has been affected. And I even mentioned it earlier on. Yeah, it has caused all kinds of issues. The online thing, I was sharing that an emotional affair is just as bad to me as a physical affair, because you're getting something. If you're not getting something in your marriage and you're going outside of the marriage, even if it's online, to me it's no different. It's still an affair.
It's still intimacy.
It's still intimacy. And people may not agree with this, but I even think that if you're married and you're looking at porn, you're having an affair. Even if you're never meeting that person on the screen, you're engaged in an activity where you're lusting or um, having a fantasy with someone other than your husband or your wife. And it's just a personal. I personally wouldn't do that. I would feel very guilty if I did something like that. I would feel like I was cheating on Jen, it's just a no go for me on that. Now, other people don't feel like that, and guess what? They get to set whatever rules they want for their relationship, and if their wife or husband is cool with them doing that, or if they're cool with them having an online relationship with someone else, emotional or otherwise, that's between the two of them or the three of them, as the case may be. Just speaking personally, I think it's very destructive. And if you care about the relationship that you're in, it's not a good idea to start talking to someone else. Um, if you're talking cooking recipes or something, or you're with a work friend and you're using Messenger to do work stuff, that's not what I'm suggesting. If you're carrying on a meaningful relationship with someone else other than who you're married to or who you're dating, it's dangerous, in my opinion. So there you go. Any follow up on any of that, or do we move on?
Wait, did Glenn answer?
Yeah, I'll have a follow up.
Yep.
I don't know anyone because I live in a very sheltered world here in a little tiny
Oh,
town.
oh.
Not the big guys live in the USA. When everybody
Yeah.
shoots each other up and does coke and all that kind of stuff. And
Oh
and,
my.
and does what else do they do? Oh, they have insurrections and they have multi COVID and that's just incredible what
Multi
goes on there.
COVID. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So I don't know anyone, but the question I just asked myself: would I be inclined to have an emotional relationship online if I had a lack in my existing relationship? And I don't think so. I think I'd be very reluctant to do that. I would rather sort out the existing relationship first.
Right.
And yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. It's
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's I would consider that cheating, but because I have a great marriage, I and of course I'm very comfortable to talk to whoever I like because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah. I like it. Thank you, Glenn.
thank you.
All right, we have two more questions left, and we'll call it a night. So the last lines of this song, and also our topic that has questions related, are we've known each other for so long, your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say it. Inside, we both know what's been going on. We know the game, and we're going to play it. And if you ask me how I'm feeling, don't tell me you're too blind to see. So the first question is it easier to play games and be deceptive online compared with in person, etc.? And we'll start with Jenna. This is a good question. We'll start with Jen on this.
Um, I would say yes.
Hmm.
I think there are some game players that are really good even in person.
Yes, sure.
So I don't think there's a hugely stark gap there.
Right,
But you think about, okay, someone robbing a bank with their face showing, and then robbing a bank with a mask on.
right.
They have a little bit of edge with their identity hidden.
Sure.
um, so I think that people have more opportunities to be deceptive over online. They can steal someone else's picture and not have the correct picture up. They can make up a name,
Yeah,
a whole identity, and they can even act. And I think it's easier to act and be believed, when you're behind a computer and you're not face to face.
yeah,
I still think it happens, in face to
sure.
face relationships, and there are some people out there that are masterminds
Yeah,
at being deceptive. But I
right.
do think it's opened up a whole other playground for people that are deceptive.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree.
so yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, it's a good answer. What about you, Glenn? How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I think it's way easier because we've all heard of the scams that get enacted upon the vulnerable. Uh,
Sure.
Yes.
and I think it's easy because a deceptive person online can be running 20 people in one go.
Yeah,
They're not
Wow.
diverting their energy just into one person, are they? They're doing it across the board. So they hit, the damage that they can cause is just multiplied
yeah,
incredibly. So I think it's way easier to play it out online. It's very sad that people fall for it, but that's what happens when you get lonely and depressed, and you're it's just sad. Hey,
Vulnerable.
yeah,
yeah, all of those things. So yeah, I think it's way easier.
yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Glenn. Well, I don't have anything else to add to that. I would agree with both of you that it's I would say, way easier to be deceptive online. As Jen said, and I agree with her, there are people that are good at deceiving in person as well. There are people that have deceived people so much to the point that, there's some kind of mass murderer or something, and they marry someone and they've killed other people before, or they steal their money. They get married to someone and they've had this plan the whole time to take the person's money, and they disappear, and some of them are never found. I'm fascinated by stories like that, and they're all over online. You can
Yeah.
find them.
I have a
But
really good friend that lives in Virginia that her ex was scamming women after women after women, like talking them into buying cars for him and
yeah,
taking their credit cards. And she had no idea that
yeah,
that was going on. It was like a double life, but it was exponential.
right,
He was
right,
like a personal trainer. And so he,
right,
had women clients, and he
yeah,
was just a good looking, smooth talking dude. And
right,
I think he's a sociopath, to be honest.
sure, sure.
When someone can lie with such
Hmm.
ease and
Hmm.
even believe their own lies, for
Yeah,
me, I'm like, how do they keep up with all the lies? Like, I'd be forgetting crap and totally screwing
sure.
up.
It's hard. I think it's harder to lie than people think, especially ongoing lies. I mean, like you said, Jen, you have to remember what lie you told
Yeah.
because it's not the truth. I think that people find a way to do it. I mean, you said it. If they believe their own lies, if they believe it, to them, that's how some people can pass a lie detector test,
Yeah.
is by believing their own lies. They believe it, and they say it so much to themselves that their heart rate doesn't go up when they tell someone else, and it's a fabrication.
Yeah.
And I have heard of that, where people have beat the lie detector test, and later they find out that they had lied straight up, and the lie detector said that they were being honest.
Hmm.
So it happens. So
Whereas for me, like, or with people that have like a moral compass, like if I were to lie,
yeah,
I'd be like sweating and
yeah.
like eyes darting around. It'd be like so obvious. I'd be like, that was
Oh, that's funny. What's funny about it is that I know that you wouldn't like lying, and as far as I know, I've never seen
yeah.
you lie.
I'd
So
even sweat when I'm afraid people might like, okay, I'll give you a quick story. This is funny. So I was
sure,
having like some severe back pain years ago. And I went to the doctor to get some muscle relaxers and some pain meds.
yeah.
And even while I was sitting there waiting for the doctor, I was like nervous and sweating just from the thought of wondering if they were thinking I was lying. Because there's a lot of people that go in
Yeah,
and fake pain to get,
yeah.
narcotics
Drug
and stuff.
seeking. They call
And
it drug seeking behavior.
yes.
Yeah,
And so I was all nervous, almost like acting like I was guilty when I knew I wasn't, but just the thought of them thinking that I was lying was
right.
making me sweat.
Wow, wow.
It's just like, stop it.
Well, that says a lot about you as a person, though, Jen. You're an honest person. And you don't even like the thought of someone not believing you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
not good. I mean, good, but not good.
Right. Exactly. All right, last question, guys. Do online connections help naturally reserved and shy people gain confidence? And we'll start with Glenn on this one.
Yeah, you bet.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I think it's a great medium for that, for practice, as your mother would say, practice.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the other thing it helps with too is it helps you to, well, I can put my hand up because I would have, in situations past, even online, if someone said something, I would go on the defensive. Having the exposure to all of those different people online has helped me to moderate that now, and it doesn't come into it. Just okay. The fact
Right.
is, everybody has an opinion. Everybody's entitled to that opinion, and just because they don't agree with me, I don't have to justify my opinion. So,
Right.
yeah, it's just
Right.
so online does in that. I think it helps you but gain confidence to be who you are, whereas before you may not have been yourself. And
Yeah.
once you get that's a transition. It takes quite a long time, I've found, to
Yeah.
get to that place where you're confident in yourself. Yeah, I like it.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. What about you, Jen? Do online connections help naturally reserved and shy people to gain confidence?
I would agree with Glenn. I think yes. I've seen it in myself over the years of talking with you guys and even doing the show, which is also another online medium. I think back to the first shows we did, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I think it's practice. I really do think it's practice. I think the same can be had when you are face to face.
Sure.
It's kind of in a different area, but the more you do it, the better you get at it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
building confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Great. I would agree with both of you. Yes, of course, it helps people that are shy. I mean, especially in a chat situation, you're not having to go on camera or anything, and you have time to get better at it. So if someone's doing it for the first time, if you talk to that same person 3 years after that, and they're continuing to do better in this area, yeah, you're going to hopefully come out of your shell by practice, like Glenn mentioned that my mom would say, practicing is going to help you be better. So
Yeah.
any person that struggles with being reserved or shy, it can help you gain confidence. Now, I would say that it doesn't help you in the real world. It might help you communicate better online, but then you have a whole nother hurdle to cross if you're a shy, reserved person. If you ever decide to change it over into the offline world, the real world.
I disagree.
Okay.
Oh, that's just for me though, personally. I know the online, like
Yeah.
gaining confidence online, actually has helped me in the
Oh,
real world,
okay. Yeah.
which is wonderful. I mean, I'm super, super grateful,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Of course.
but maybe not for everybody, but for me, definitely.
Oh, well, that's, yeah. I mean, you're answering from your perspective. So, yeah, I can be wrong about that as it applies to you for sure. It would have to be to each person that's answering the question.
Yeah.
Some people would say, yeah, just because I'm better online, meeting a person, I'd be very nervous to do that. And other people like you, Jen, would learn from that experience and do much better in person. Now, when we met in person, you didn't seem shy or reserved to me at all, and could have been that you were comfortable, with me, or it could have been you were comfortable with Glenn and Sandra being there, when we first met, or being at home, or who knows. But yeah, you did. When you told me later that you were, kind of shy and you're an introvert, I was like, what?
I think part of it is because we all had a friendship that had been built
Yeah.
for a while.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so the more I get to know people, the more extroverted I become. But
Yeah.
when I meet people the first time, I'm a little more reserved and shy.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yes.
Not just meeting you, but having Glenn and Sandra there, and sitting around and having chats and playing games. And we got a little
Eating crackers and cheese.
yeah, crackers and cheese, right? Got a little stressful when we were on our way back to Fort Mill, and the traffic was built up, and everybody's driving like a maniac. But we got there safely. But other than that, and then hanging out with Glenn and Sandra, and going a few places and going to lunch and things like that. It was really, really, overall, that period of time was wonderful for me, and I'll never forget it. It was great. That doesn't have anything to do with the question, but it was a great time.
You're
All right.
reminiscing.
Yep. So that ends the questions. Maybe don't overkill online connections by letting them be our lives instead of having our life. That's just me. No Instagram, no Twitter, just some crazy people I know online. Now, a bonus, LOL. 2 songs in one show. It's Colin Hay, Men at Work with Overkill, sung with Choir, Choir, Choir. And that link is in the description. And then we end with a quote: Ghosts appear and fade away. To all, enjoy the break and stay safe. And that's our show for tonight, guys. We want to thank everyone who stopped in, and we thank everyone who's listening to this online. Do us a favor, please, if you get a chance, drop a like in there for us. And if you want to make any comments, please put them in the description. If you have any ideas of how we can make improvements to this broadcast, we read everything anybody says. We'd be happy if we got a little feedback, whether positive or negative. Just let us know. We won't be doing any online stripping on the channel, but there that is. um, we did pretty good with the technical issues tonight, other than changing the chat over, and we're grateful that we got through this one. This is the third attempt, and we're grateful that Glenn's computer got through the whole thing. Thank you, Glenn, for your patience as well with all the technical difficulties, because you're the one producing it. Ever since they changed it from the system that was in, but I mean, the system they had before, I had no problem. I could set my own people up using Hangouts, and I knew how to do that. But if anything ever happened, I wouldn't have any idea how to even begin to do the OBS. I'm sure it's something I could learn, but it just seems like foreign to me. Anyway, Joel popped in. Joel, it's good to see you. Hope you have a good night too, and hope your Christmas was doing well. Shoot me a text or whatever. I hope, love to know how you're doing, how your holidays went, and everything. Good to see everybody. All right, we'll say good night, and we'll start with Jen. Jen, say good night to people.
Good night, peoples. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, guys. And Happy New Year, and may your week be lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next week.
All right, Glenn, you're up. Say good night to the peoples, please.
Yeah, good night. Thanks for turning up. Yeah, it's a holiday here, so you don't have holiday for New Year's Day, do you? No. Okay.
Yeah, New Year's Day, yes.
Oh,
the first.
you get a holiday. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, good night. See you next week.
Thank you, Glenn. And I loved the
Pleasure.
write-up. It was perfect for the first of the year. It ended up being perfect timing with it just being kind of light and fun. And 2021 was a very serious year, just like 2020. And I just wish for everyone listening that 2022 is a lot better for you. And I hope for your families joy and peace in this new year. And I hope that you know everyone's health is better and work is better than it has been. And I just hope it's a year where you thrive and grow and change. And thank you for listening to the broadcast tonight. We'll be back again next Sunday night with another topic.